This is a real photograph. A perfect six-sided hexagon, 30,000 kilometers wide, spinning at the North Pole of Saturn. No computer made it. No one carved it. It has been there for as long as we've been able to look. This moon looks like the Death Star from Star Wars, and it's completely real. This one is two-faced, one side bright white, the other black as coal. And this world rains liquid methane onto lakes bigger than any on Earth. You are about to see 12 real places in our own solar system that look like they cannot possibly exist. Every single image you're about to see is real, captured by our spacecraft. And number one still has scientists asking a single question. How? Let's begin. Number 12. Uranus, the planet that fell over. Every other planet in the solar system spins more or less upright, like a top. Uranus doesn't. It is tipped almost completely onto its side at an angle of about 98 degrees, so it basically rolls around the sun like a ball. When Voyager 2 flew past in 1986, it sent back the only close-up photos we have, and they showed an almost featureless, pale blue-green sphere, smooth and eerie, like a marble floating in the dark. But that sideways tilt does something bizarre to its seasons. Because Uranus is knocked over, each pole spends about 21 years in constant sunlight, and then about 21 years in total darkness. Scientists think a planet-sized object slammed into it long ago and knocked it flat. It has been lying on its side, quietly rolling through space ever since. Number 11. Iapetus, the two-faced moon of Saturn. This one looks like it was painted by two different artists who never spoke to each other. One entire hemisphere is bright, clean, icy white. The other is stained a deep, sooty brown-black, dark as fresh asphalt. For centuries, astronomers were baffled because the moon seemed to vanish on one side of its orbit and reappear on the other. Cassini finally solved it up close. The dark side is coated in a thin layer of dark dust, which soaks up sunlight, heats up, and drives the ice away, making the contrast even sharper. But Iapetus has a second impossible feature. Running almost exactly along its equator is a gigantic ridge of mountains, up to 20 kilometers high, so tall and so straight that it makes the whole moon look like a walnut or a giant seam on a cosmic baseball. Nobody is completely sure how it got there. Number 10. Hyperion, the sponge moon. Of all the strange objects orbiting Saturn, this might be the weirdest looking of them all. Hyperion is not round, like a proper moon should be. It is a lumpy, irregular chunk that looks disturbingly like a natural bath sponge or a piece of coral. Its whole surface pockmarked with deep, sharp-edged craters that seem to swallow the light. The reason is its density. Hyperion is incredibly porous, so full of empty space inside that it is nearly half hollow. When something hits it, the impact just punches straight in and compresses the surface instead of blasting out a normal crater. And here is the truly unsettling part. Hyperion tumbles. Unlike almost every other moon, which keeps one face politely pointed at its planet, Hyperion spins chaotically, wobbling and rolling unpredictably as it goes, so that its day length is essentially impossible to predict. Number 9. Miranda, the Frankenstein moon of Uranus. From a distance, Miranda looks like it was smashed to pieces and then badly glued back together. Its surface is a chaotic patchwork of mismatched terrains slammed side by side. Old cratered plains crashing into strange grooved racetrack shapes, cliffs, and canyons that simply don't belong next to each other. But Miranda hides the single most terrifying drop in the entire solar system. It is called Verona Rupees, and it is a cliff. Not a hill, a sheer cliff, plunging as much as 20 kilometers straight down. That is more than 10 times deeper than the Grand Canyon. And because Miranda's gravity is so weak, if you jumped off the edge of Verona Rupees, you would fall for a full 10 to 12 minutes before you finally hit the bottom. 10 minutes of falling off a single cliff on a tiny moon most people have never even heard of. Number 8. Mimas, the Death Star moon. When Cassini sent back its first sharp images of this little moon of Saturn, people genuinely did a double take, because it looks almost exactly like the Death Star superweapon from Star Wars. And the resemblance is not subtle. Mimas is dominated by one absolutely enormous impact crater named Herschel that sits on one side of it like a giant, staring eye, complete with a huge central peak in the middle, just like the dish on the fictional space station. Herschel is about 130 kilometers across. That is roughly a third of the width of the entire moon. The impact that made it was so violent that it very nearly shattered Mimas completely, and you can still see fracture lines on the far side of the moon that may have been caused by the shockwave ripping all the way through. A little more force, and this moon would simply not exist. Number 7. Venus, Earth's hellish twin. In size and mass, Venus is almost a perfect copy of our own planet, which is why it is sometimes called Earth's twin, but it is a twin from your worst nightmare. Venus is the hottest planet in the entire solar system, hotter even than Mercury, which sits far closer to the Sun. Its surface sizzles at around 465 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. The air is a crushing blanket of carbon dioxide, about 90 times heavier than Earth's atmosphere. Standing on Venus, you would be simultaneously roasted, crushed, and suffocated. And it gets worse. The thick clouds that hide its surface are not made of water. They are made of sulfuric acid. Spacecraft that have tried to land there have been destroyed within hours by the heat and pressure. The radar maps we do have reveal a bone-dry world of vast volcanic plains and mountains, glowing under a sky that never clears. Number 6. Olympus Mons, the mountain that dwarfs the Earth. This is a volcano on Mars, and it is not just big. It is the largest volcano and one of the tallest mountains in the entire solar system. Olympus Mons rises about 22 kilometers above the Martian plains. That is roughly 2.5 times the height of Mount Everest, stacked on top of the world. If you try to climb it, you would barely notice you were on a mountain because it is so vast and gently sloping that from the surface it would just look like the ground tilting away forever. Its base is around 600 kilometers wide, big enough to completely cover the entire state of Arizona or the whole of Italy. At the summit sits a complex of collapsed craters wide enough to swallow a major city. It is a mountain so large that if you were standing on it, its peak would curve away below the horizon. Number 5. Io, the volcano moon. If you want to see hell painted in yellow and orange, look at Io, the innermost large moon of Jupiter. Its surface looks like a rotting pizza, splattered in sulfur yellows, sickly greens, and volcanic reds and blacks. And that surface is completely alive. Io is the most volcanically active world in the entire solar system. It has more than 400 active volcanoes, and some of them are so powerful that they blast plumes of sulfur and ash hundreds of kilometers up into space, high enough that our spacecraft have photographed them erupting over the edge of the moon. The reason is a brutal gravitational tug of war. Jupiter's immense gravity, fighting against the pull of the other big moons, stretches and squeezes Io constantly, flexing the entire moon and heating its insides until they melt. There are lava lakes here that glow in the dark. Io is not a dead rock. It is a world being needed alive. Number 4. Titan, the only other world with seas. Titan is the giant moon of Saturn, and it is the single most Earth-like place we have ever found, and yet it is utterly alien. Titan is the only moon in the solar system with a thick, hazy atmosphere, so dense and orange that for a long time we couldn't see the surface at all. When Cassini used radar to peer through the haze and dropped the Huygens probe down onto the ground, what it found was staggering. Titan has weather. It has clouds, rain, rivers, and vast lakes and seas. There are shorelines and river deltas that look uncannily like photographs of Earth from above. But here's the twist. It is so cold on Titan, around minus 180 degrees Celsius, that water is frozen rock hard. The liquid filling those seas is not water at all. It is liquid methane and ethane. On Titan, it rains gasoline from an orange sky in a seas that could swallow a country. Number 3. Enceladus, the little moon that sprays the ocean into space. From a distance, Enceladus looks almost boring. A small, brilliantly white, icy moon of Saturn, only about 500 kilometers across. It is one of the shiniest, whitest objects in the solar system, reflecting almost all the sunlight that hits it. But then Cassini flew behind it, looked back toward the sun, and saw something incredible. Enormous glowing jets of material, blasting out of the South Pole into space. Enceladus has an entire ocean of liquid salt water hidden beneath its icy shell. And through a set of huge cracks near its South Pole, nicknamed the Tiger Stripes, that ocean is erupting. More than 100 geysers fire plumes of water, ice, and vapor hundreds of kilometers up off the surface. Some of that spray escapes the moon completely and forms one of Saturn's faint rings. A tiny frozen moon is quietly feeding a ring around an entire planet, and the ocean it comes from is one of the best places we know to go looking for alien life. Number 2. Jupiter's Great Red Spot, the storm that will not die. Look at Jupiter, and one feature jumps out immediately: a giant swirling red eye sitting in its southern hemisphere. That is the Great Red Spot, and it is a single storm, a hurricane so vast it makes every storm on Earth look like a puff of breath. The Great Red Spot is wider than our entire planet. You could drop the whole Earth into it, and it would simply vanish inside the swirl. Its winds scream around the edges at speeds of over 400 miles per hour. But the most astonishing thing about it is time. Humans have been watching this exact storm for around 350 years, since we first turned telescopes on Jupiter. A storm on Earth lasts days. This one has been raging continuously for centuries. When the Juno spacecraft dived close, it revealed the spot is not just wide, it is deep, plunging hundreds of kilometers down into the planet, a bottomless whirlpool of cloud. It is slowly shrinking, but it shows no sign of stopping. And number 1, Saturn's hexagon, the shape that shouldn't exist. We save this for last because when you first see it, your brain simply refuses to accept that it is natural. At the North Pole of Saturn, the clouds form a nearly perfect six-sided hexagon, a giant, geometric, six-walled shape with sharp corners and straight edges, spinning in the atmosphere of a planet. It looks manufactured. It looks like someone drew it, but it is completely real, first spotted by the Voyager probes, and then photographed in stunning detail by Cassini. And the scale of it is almost impossible to picture. This hexagon is about 30,000 kilometers wide, which means you could line up around 4 entire Earths across it. At its center spins a hurricane, and along its 6 straight sides, a jet stream races around at hundreds of kilometers per hour, holding those edges eerily straight, year after year. Scientists can partly recreate the shape in the lab with spinning fluids, but a perfect planet-sized hexagon, holding its form for decades, still leaves the experts staring at the images and asking the same simple question. How? This was WonderSphere. If your mind is still spinning, go watch our journey to the strangest places on Earth next. And tell me in the comments, which one of these did you refuse to believe was real? See you in the next one.